Welcome back to JB Reviews. Today we're going to start the MPG runs for this new GMC AT4X that got released this year. Now if you don't know, I need my shades now actually. This truck does have a higher ride height compared to the other HD trucks, and it has taller and wider tires. I'm headed to the gas station right now. I'm going to pretty much top off for diesel and DEF, and we'll kind of get an idea of how much DEF we burn. We're not going to burn much because you don't burn a lot when you're just cruising around, but if you tow a trailer or do like a lot of stop and go traffic, typically that will affect the usage for that DEF. But let's go ahead and fill up, and I'm going to probably do this video over the course of a few days, so we'll be basically doing real world. So I'm actually headed to Salt Lake City, which is probably about 50 miles from my house, and I'm gonna hit a few other places. So we're gonna do a lot of stop and go, a lot of different places we have to visit, and then probably by Friday, today's Wednesday, we'll be able to have an idea of how much usage this truck has for DEF and diesel. Now I do prefer to fill up at Costco, but I want to get as much mileage as I can, so basically we'll just go ahead and fill up here. And diesel is, whew, man, diesel is $4.49. Wow, that is expensive. The one good thing about GM pickups is you can use high flow pumps with the diesel tank and the DEF tank. So on my Ram, I remember I could not, pull the lever all the way for the pump because it would just kick off. So with these, it's just a lot quicker to fill up. Now, if you get a gas truck, there's obviously no high flow pumps for those types of vehicles. So yeah, diesel's the only way you get that benefit. An 1.5 inch lift is not a big difference when you really look at it on paper. But when you consider they removed the valance, the taller and wider tires, and also the 1.5 inch lift, there is a difference on fuel economy. I can tell on the computer on my route when I've had the AT4, and even when my dually was stock, my dually got really good fuel economy because when it had the factory tires, it really performed well. Like I want to say it was getting like about 14 to 15 MPG, which is pretty good for a dually. So I would venture to say a single rear wheel would probably get about a mile or two better. The 342 rear doesn't change in this scenario, and the Gen 2 L5P is more fuel efficient. They did upgrade the combustion, and I'm not sure if that is a factor, but with the more horsepower and torque, you do gain a little bit better fuel economy compared to the Gen 1 L5P. Let's talk about some of the power in this truck, and then we'll continue with the video. Here is the Gen 2 L5P. This engine is putting out 470 horsepower, 975 pound-feet of torque. All this power goes through a 10-speed transmission known as the Allison, although GM did build this transmission in-house and got the approval from Allison. 342 rear end. Let's see how it performs. Here we go. I just made it to my first stop. So this is the drive summary, and then this is the trip one. So with that being said, when we do this trip, I'm going to show you guys the drive summary. That way you kind of have an idea of how we average for MPG. But yeah, when I leave here, this is going to go down pretty significantly because going south, I think you're just going up the whole way, so it does drop it down by maybe 4 MPG. But I'm going to go to Draper, Utah, do some videos out there, and then I'll head home. On Friday, today's Wednesday, I think I'm going to go do some RV reviews, so we'll have to figure that out. And yeah, hopefully I can get at least 200 to 300 miles. I'm going to try, because that'll be nice for this type of trip here for you guys. But this is one of my favorite trucks so far because it does have the massagers. It also has this upper shoulder support too. The lumbar can be controlled up and down, and you can actually increase the bolstering on the side of the seats too.
here's some of the trip home. I did hit some traffic, and it was probably stop and go for about 15-20 minutes, but then once I got off the highway, it was pretty clear.
So today is Friday, and I'm getting ready to take the kids to school. Say hi, guys.
Hi.
And this is the final day for the test. I did not go anywhere yesterday, so I'm pretty much at 15 MPG. I've driven 80 miles so far, so we're probably gonna get close to like 170 in that ballpark. It's 34 degrees outside today, so that's really going to affect the fuel economy. Now, if I were able to show you guys outside, I'm pretty sure my active grill shutters are closed because of how cold it is. But yeah, that's definitely going to affect fuel economy, especially for a diesel, because diesels need that heat. So yeah, like I said, we're gonna drop them off and then we're gonna head down the road in a second. It has officially hit 32 degrees out here in Utah, and that's gonna really affect the fuel economy for this truck. But that's the good thing about doing this test is you guys were able to kind of see we were getting like anywhere between 15 to 18 when the temperatures are about 60 degrees outside. And now, I mean, I'm probably averaging about 13 to 14 in that ballpark right now. So we should be to the interstate in a little bit. One thing I want to mention, I did a video on how this truck rides. And I mentioned that it rides like a sports car. And what I meant by that was, if you've ever driven a sports car, they always have a tighter chassis because that helps them with stability on the road. And this truck being a HD, it has a really, robust frame. So typically if you drive a GM HD, the trucks do ride a lot softer. But because this truck has a DSSV, I feel as though the suspension does bounce you around a little bit. It's not bad, it's just the dampening in those shocks is what you're feeling, because they're built for that suspension travel. So I think that, as I've said in another video, if you're really looking for this truck to ride like a car or to ride like a half ton, you'll be very sadly mistaken, because I'm pretty sure the shocks, which are the Multimatic DSSV on this truck, are not the same as the half tons, because this truck is almost, I don't know, 3,000 pounds more, somewhere in there, and when you think about that kind of weight difference, they probably have to change, how they tune these shocks. So yes, the truck's gonna ride a little harsher. It's not gonna be that cushy ride that you might have had in your half ton. It's probably not gonna be as good of a riding truck as even a regular AT4. I mean, that's just my opinion. I mean, I find that this truck rides a little bit more like a sports car. Like, it's a little bit more like you can feel the dampening in the suspension. And my wife had told me, I think the truck rides a little bit harsher than even the dually. And I'm like, I don't know. Maybe she probably hasn't driven a dually in a while, because that sucker is definitely stiff. And this truck is not necessarily stiff. It's dampening where you can kind of feel it on the road, because that suspension is really built for really getting, used like off-road, like, if you're jumping a little bit, like not necessarily jumping, leaving the ground, so to speak, but it's not the off-road suspension that I'm used to. I'm used to like the Bilsteins really making the truck ride a little bit softer and actually feel more balanced on the road. But for some people that may not be a good thing, but I find that this truck rides fine for me. But I like harsh riding cars. I mean, I've lowered cars, I've had adjustable coilovers on cars in the past, and I would always stiffen them up. So that's just me. But for some people, this is going to be probably not the best riding truck for you. Now, I had to make a quick pit stop. Whenever I go to some of my dealers, I do get them some donuts. So I got 24 donuts, 2 dozen. Hopefully they like them. What do you guys think? If you don't know about Lehigh Bakery, you got to give these guys a look up. They are amazing. Now, when I was in the store just now getting these donuts, someone had recognized me. They just bought a black AT4 HD. They told a really big boat, they said. And they said, you can't even tell us back there. I didn't get your name and I apologize, but thanks for saying what's up. So we're going to get to Paris RV. We'll drive back home, and then pretty much that will end the video and you guys know what this truck gets for fuel economy. This is the best real world example that I've done so far for any review that I've done for like real world testing. So I'm kind of excited about this, because This will probably be off from the computer because I've stopped a lot. I've idled a good bit, you know, at some of the dealerships, things like that. So, and especially today, I'm gonna probably idle a good bit at Parrish because I have to drive the truck around the lot. And yeah, so yeah, that's gonna probably take a hit for the fuel economy. So yeah, this is a good test for someone that is kind of, you know, trying to get an idea of the fuel economy. I mean, I know that, you know, this is not a big deal for some people. If you can afford this type of truck, you don't really care about the fuel mileage. But for me, I like to know what I'm going to spend. So that's why I do these videos. I wonder if the consumption of the DEF is affected by the cold weather. I don't think I've really burnt much of that because we've only driven, what, a little bit over 100 miles or so, I think. Yeah, 104 miles so far. And DEF doesn't really get affected until like, I would say 500 or 600 miles. So it's probably showing, well, it is showing that we have consumed a little bit. And probably with some of the idling that I've done, that's probably another reason why. But yeah, the tires are at 54 all the way around. The rear and the front left one is at 55, but transmission's at 151. That's probably a little bit higher than what I've seen on my dually. But yeah, I mean, for the most part, I mean, this truck is really truly one of my favorite ones. Like I love the interior. Like you can't compare a Ram to this interior, guys. Like Ram has to redesign that cab now because with the GM having the new refreshed interior, it's just hard to deny. And yeah, I just think that they've just done a great job. Now don't get me wrong, the limited night edition HD is still my favorite truck, but this is definitely a keeper if I could get this in the 3500. I drove 30 miles in 25 minutes and averaged 16.7 MPG. I've already showed these numbers a few times on my channel, but I figure it's worth noting. This truck does weigh 8,495 pounds on the curb. The axles for the GM pickups out back are class leading for 6,600 pound rating. 11,350 is the gross vehicle weight rating, which helps it to get that decent payload of 2,854 pounds. And then here's the yellow sticker. And these tires are recommended to be run at 55 PSI. We just made it back to the place that we filled up at, and we drove 205 miles. Seems like a lot, but you know, that's 2 days of driving for me sometimes because I do live pretty far for the most part. So let's go ahead and fill up with diesel and DEF. We'll see how much we used. This won't take long. High flow pump for the win. I'm thinking 200 miles, 15 to 18 gallons. That's what I'm thinking. 15 to 18. And I was dead wrong. That was pretty quick. So 50 bucks so far. Let me go ahead and top it off. I gotta wait a long time though, guys, because, well, you know what? Here's what I'll do. Okay, so I will go very slow. This high flow pump is no joke, so we'll just kind of go like that. A little bit more, a little bit more. All right, there it is. It just kicked off, so let's go ahead and do the math, and then we'll go ahead and fill up with DEF. $205.8 miles is what we drove over the last few days, and 15 MPG. So let's go ahead and do the math. So it's 205.8 divided into, was it 12.764? So 12.764. Okay, so what do you guys think? Oh wow, so this says 15, pump says 16.123. Now you guys saw that I topped off twice. I did twice, and so it's saying we're getting about an MPG better than the computer. So I know people say that the computer doesn't work. I idled, I did some stop and go traffic. You guys saw that in this trip. So when I do my quick test at the dealership, stop saying that my tests aren't accurate, because they are. If anything, You could get better at the pump than what I'm showing you. Now, my tests are just kind of me moving pretty consistently. So if you drive to and from work that way, not stopping a lot, that's about what you would get. So we got basically 16 MPG basically, so mile per gallon better than the computer. I did put a little bit extra in the DEF tank, so 0.334. It was like 0.2 something. So let's go ahead and see what the computer says. So 205.8 divided into 0.334 is this. So with mixed driving, I would say 50-50 highway city, because I did a lot of city driving too. You can get 616 miles a gallon. Now obviously if you're towing, it's totally different. You can burn out like, you know, probably 3 or 4 gallons after a few thousand miles. Well, I would say after about 12 to 1500 miles. But on these trucks, I'm thinking you can get about 2,000 to 2,500 miles because the tanks are larger compared to like Rams, because there's like 5.7. So yeah, there you go.
Here's the cost to drive 10,000 miles if we average 16.1 miles to the gallon. And figure we purchased 621 gallons of fuel. And the DEF cost is $68. So basically, you can go about 4,300 miles on the DEF tank if you're not towing. So that does drop down significantly if you are towing. So just keep that in mind. And here are some of the numbers for the performance.